Welcome, how are you? Listen, a few years ago, a friend and I got into the September goose hunting season here in New York, and they make these really cool portable blinds that you can set up fairly quickly and move from field to field depending on the day, depending on what the geese are doing and feeding on. But I'm going to attempt to build one out of this really rough shape pop-up canopy. Mice got to it, chewed it up, it's all sun faded, and some of the support posts are not in great shape. I'm gonna take that and this camouflage netting that I got on Marketplace for $20. It's 16 feet long and 13 and a half feet at the other dimension, and maybe a little bit of twine, and build my own collapsible, easily deployable goose hunting blind. It's going to be a fun project. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, first step after removing the cover is to take off these parts of the frame that held the roof of the canopy up. They're the top. Those are going to be unnecessary. So once I get those off, I'll be just left with the outside square. Now I have the two side walls taken off, so I basically have a front wall and a back wall of the blind, and I'm trying to figure out how big I want to make the blind overall. Since the back and front wall is expandable, I can go any real distance, I guess, and adjust it. I think I'm going to set it up for essentially a two-man blind. It would stretch out to accommodate another person, but it's kind of going to put those supports really spread out, so I'm not so sure how that's going to work out. What I need to determine now is how deep the blind will be. So from front to back, and it's looking like 4 feet is going to be about right. So I've taken one of the supports that was the roof rafters, and I'm going to, you can see it laying over there. I'm going to convert that into rafters to tie the two walls together. So I've got to do some cutting and some drilling to make that happen. I think that's going to work out really well and stabilize the whole frame pretty good. Okay, I've got the one rafter put together, so I just swung this cross piece over, drilled a new hole, and put a bolt through it. I'll probably do something different with these bolts because this has to be removable easily. So I'll probably get a bolt that's threaded all the way, put a nut on the inside so it's held there, and then just use a small wing nut on this side so that it can be easily taken apart and folded up. But this is what it looked like before I did it, with just center punched it so I get my hole right, and I'll drill through there and throw a bolt through it. Okay, here are the rafters in place that maintain that 4-foot distance from the front of the blind to the back of the blind here. And as far as the bottom, the base, you could swing these legs out on each section, front and back, to give you more room there, and then these walls would be at whatever angle you determine to be appropriate. I put these diagonals in there to stabilize everything, and those just pivot right up. You push them in the ground when you've got them where you want them, and it does keep the thing fairly stable. Okay, I had a slight change of plan. I've now tied this front curtain, or the front camo, up above this collar tie on the rafter. The reason I did that is it provides you a little bit more coverage and protection from detection overhead, and so I can't slide these down anymore because the collar tie is going to be in the way. However, there's enough give there. When you stand up and you lean on that, it'll give enough where you can have a wide open free shot. Won't be a problem. I'm going to do away with these bungee cords and just use the regular ball bungees like on the other side there when I just pick up a couple more of those. But the back curtain is on now, and it looks really good. This one, as you can see, the roof goes right up over, and when I'm on my chair, sitting on the chair there, or a stool, I'll be completely covered from overhead detection. Okay, as I'm monkeying around with it, I decided to do another little modification. All right, now there's a spring button here, and that's when you spread the canopy out to the full 10 feet. These sliders lock up above that to keep it from collapsing. So since I'm only going 7 feet here with the design of this blind, or thereabouts, I had to move that spring button down to here, to this level right here. Made some major advancements on the frame, so it's all painted now flat black. I've also changed the diagonals, or the supports. These used to go right down to the ground and just kind of pushed into the ground to keep the frame stabilized. I decided to do it different and make it even more sturdy, I guess, and make them tied right into what is essentially the collar tie for the rafter. And that has a wing nut on it, because that will have to come off really quickly and easily. Where are you? Right there. So when you fold the thing up, that will facilitate that being able to happen. So the paint's still going to dry a little bit, maybe another hour or so, and I will be ready to fold it up the first time, make sure everything works the way I intended it to, and then I will fit the netting one more time. Got a couple bungee cords that I just bought too that'll work way better, the ball bungee cords, and that will be it. Things should be complete then, other than the brackets I want to make up for the cross braces here to just to support the guns when they're in the blind. So little more to come, little ways to go, but it's come a long ways, and it's been a slow process, but that's just the way I work. You know, it's like my life could be described as perpetual prototype, because I come up with a concept, I somewhat implement that and fix or put things together and design, but it never stays the same as what I originally thought. There's always changes along the way, necessitated by either, you know, to make it work or to make it a little bit better. But by doing those diagonal supports, going from the leg to the collar tie, it also leaves you that nice big doorway with nothing to trip on going in and out of the blind. Or if you had a dog with you, it's going to make it much easier. Here is the blind frame all folded up, just resting on the rafters here. So when I get ready to transport, we'll fold them down like that, put a couple bungee cords around the whole thing, and it'll be ready for transport. Light, compact, should be really good. What I'm going to do now is to reset it up and kind of time myself to see how long it will take. It's going to be a lot easier now in full daylight than it would be when you're setting up, you know, in the darkness before dawn, but I'll get the idea anyways. And the more I do set it up, the more familiar I will be with the process, and it should be pretty efficient. I'm getting to the point now, I'm just making little refinements and additions to the blind just to make it work better. As you can see, the netting is blowing in, and that is one of the common problems with an A-frame type blind like this. I've seen other people comment about that. So I've got a fairly simple solution. You know, and this one is fairly open, so it's not going to catch as much wind as if it was a solid piece of burlap or whatever, but it's still going to catch the wind, it's still going to move because it is so light. So what I'm going to do is use these stakes that I made up, and I'll show you the process that I used to make them. It's just PVC pipe cut out of a piece of 3-inch Schedule 40 PVC. I just sliced a narrow slice out of it, about 8 inches long I started, and then, you know, sharpened the one end so I can push it into the ground. Just made a nice hand-friendly radius here on the top with heating it up by a heat gun. I'll show you that whole process here in a second. And I'm just going to use these to catch the net. Probably 3 across the front would be plenty on that 7-foot distance between the legs, and push them into the ground and hopefully minimize that drift that you see there when the wind's blowing. Okay, so I just started out with the blanks, pieces I cut. I don't even know what that is, maybe 8 inches long. There really wasn't any particular measurement, but I bent the one end into that hook with a heat gun, which I'll show you in a second. And on the other end, that's going to go into the ground. I'm just going to sharpen them with my chop saw just to make a point on there. And now to put the hook end on, like I did with this one to form it, again, I'm just going to use my heat gun to do that, big heavy leather gloves, and I'm not really at all particular about the dimensions, the size, the angle. I guess if that's your thing, you could be much more precise if you wanted to. Not concerned about it. I'm just going to push them in the ground, and they'll do the job either way. Looks like it's getting there now. And then it's just a matter of holding it in place until it cools off enough to maintain that shape or retain the shape. All right, just going to paint up those stakes a little bit. I pushed them a third of the way through just a piece of cardboard. The reason for that, holds them in place so I can paint them. Number two, I don't really need the whole stake painted. The part that goes down the ground, the paint's just going to wear off the first time you do that, push it in. And the white tip on those stakes left like that will make them a little bit easier to find in the pre-dawn darkness if you happen to drop one or whatever. So let's get them painted. Well, I think it's a wrap. I think I'm done with it finally. Added a couple different things. There's those stakes that kind of hold the cloth, keep it from flapping around and moving and encroaching on your space inside. Whichever side you're going to use for getting in and out of the blind can be open. This one I've got bungee corded closed so it doesn't flap around either. And I think I'm ready for geese to start flying. Haven't heard any yet around here, but that'll start soon. I'll go inside and show you the gun mount that I came up with. It's just a piece of HDPE and it slides tightly over the cross braces, and I have it bungee corded to those cross braces as well. And then I just made this also out of the same material, a cradle that's really nice and deep. It's padded with foam, kind of that gasket seal or whatever, door seal, and that protects the gun a little bit. And the bracket actually pivots to depending on which way you want to approach it, but yet it'll stay there. It's pretty snug, so that'll work. The reason I made it so deep was that there's no chance, regardless of what happens, that gun's not going to fall out of there if you position it in there right. So I've got another one for the other side. So upsides, extremely light. The thing's only 19 pounds total, and that's pretty impressive. It is 7 feet across the front and 4 feet deep this way. Plenty of room inside for certainly 2 guys and probably 3 guys if you're pretty efficient with your use of space. Upside again would be that the visibility out of the blind is pretty incredible. You know, as long as you're camouflaged inside and you're not moving around a lot, you should be well concealed. Now, I guess some could say, well, it is kind of see-through too, so it's not as a solid concealment as some blinds might be. And what you can see is I hung a piece of burlap there on the interior, almost like a curtain. And I guess you could do that if that was your concern, that from one particular direction, maybe if the wind is at your back and the geese are landing into the spread in front of you and they're staring right in the blind, maybe that's a consideration. I don't know. Probably pack a piece along just in case, but I'm kind of thinking it's probably not necessary. So that is it. I hope you liked the project as much as I liked putting it together. It's gonna really work out well, I think. Here is just a teaser. Here is my e-bike that I have all set up for hunting. I used it this spring for turkey season, and man, it really worked out nice. But more on this project in another video series if you want to check that out. I used my deer cart, made up a hitch. I can carry all my decoys and my goose blind, and it really does an outstanding job. More on that later, but I'm going to call this one done. And I'm satisfied with it. Really, really happy with it. Again, thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.